Hi everyone, welcome back. In this video, we're going to be discussing about WebSockets, and our major focus on this video, or in this video rather, would be how to set up WebSockets in a Node.js application. But before we go into that route, what exactly is WebSocket, or what do we mean by WebSocket? Socket connection, as it may seem, is just one way of transferring information between two different, ends. Most times it's always between the server and the client to the server, and it's a two-way communication whereby you can send information from the client down to the server and also send information from the server down to the client through a TCP connection. Now, when we talk about WebSockets, it's just a means of sending information between two ends. And when you're building an application, in most cases you have to send real-time events, which means event that happens at that particular point in time. Take for example, you are building a chat application whereby you need to tell, or you need to emit an information or emit a message to several users in a group. You don't expect me to be getting my message at 12:01 and someone else is getting it at 12:09. So that image is being sent across every connected client at the same time. And this can only be achieved with using WebSockets. We have other means of transferring data or sending data across multiple routes, which is like the HTTP methods, which is the post, the put, and the rest of them. But for this particular video, I'm going to be showing you how to send information and how to set up a WebSocket connection or a socket connection in a Node.js application. Now I've been able to highlight everything that we need to know and what we'll be learning after this video. Let's go straight into the practical aspect of this video. So looking at what we have, if you want the full and working version of this particular tutorial which we're working on right now, you'll get the link in the description below. But if you would love to follow along one at a time as we go through each step, then you can work with me while I do everything right in this video. Now, the first thing I've done before now is basically just setting up an Express server in my Node.js application. And it's nothing new. I've only installed Express, installed CORS, installed the .env package, and I've also had my ports inside of my env here. So right now, all I just need to do is just go into my package.json file. But before I do that, you would have to install a package called the socket.io, which I already installed before now. So the socket.io is what we're going to be using to set up WebSockets in our server. So if you've not had this installed, you also need to add it to your package.json dependencies. But I already have that installed, which is one of the packages that are listed here. Now, the next thing I'll be doing here is I'll be installing a development package called NodeMon. So this is basically just for my application to always be able to auto restart or restart by itself without me having to, quit my application and restart it again. Then I'm going to change this to a start script and have it as node index.js. And also I would have a development script or a development command rather, and this will also be nodemon index.js. Now, if we go into our application, just for us to be sure that our application works, I'm just going to create an entry route so that we can get to see something. Then I'm just going to call this welcome to our app. We should also be seeing this console here in the terminal when we start the application. So I'm going to run yarn run dev, and this would start our application using this, and I should be seeing the console.log, which is basically this that says server is running on port 9200. So now if you go to 9200, you will be seeing this in your browser. But like I said, that's not the main focus of our tutorial. The main focus is how do we bring in socket.io here, how do we connect sockets into our Node.js, and how do we allow this particular socket connection be accessible by several or any client. That's our main focus. Before now, I already said I've installed a package called the socket.io, which is the package that Node.js allows you to use when trying to create a new socket connection in your application. Now, I'm going to have this, and inside of here, I'm just going to import or require, as we have it, the socket connection. So I'm going to have server require socket.io. So server is an inbuilt class inside of an inbuilt instance inside of the socket.io package, which we installed earlier. And the next thing we just do here is we can just have, let me take this to the top so that we don't have any issues. So I can just call this socket connection. So now the next thing we'll be doing here is we'll create a new variable called IO, and we're going to have it as the new server, which means we're creating a new instance of this server. And inside of here, we'll be passing this. And the only way we can pass this is basically by we having to make this accessible in a variable. So I'm going to take this out of here and put that in here and just call this server. So now we can be able to pass this server into this new server instance which we've created, and also add an option for cost. So the reason why we're adding the option for cost is because most times when you create a socket connection on your server and you try to, emit event, which means by sending event from your server down to your client, or you try to send from the client to the server, you get this cost origin policy error. And that's the reason why we are having this option set to true here. And also, I forgot something. You would have to also do your app.use cost. So that allows your application to be able to make use of cost, because before now, we already had cost, installed and required. Now you would see that when I save this application, our server is still running successfully. And all we just need to do is we would have to create what we call the connection events. So which means we now have access to the socket connection via this variable called the IO. You can name it X, you can name it Y, you can name it whatever it is you want to name it, but just for the naming convention's sake and for easy readability and understanding, we're going to be using the word IO, which is basically coming from here. So now the first thing we'll be doing here is we've been able to create the variable, and the next thing here would be if we're going to be using the on method inside of socket. So there are several methods that you can find inside of the IO, but for our case, we're going to be using the on, and we're going to be saying when you notice a connection, which means when there's a connection, the first thing we want to do is we just want to console by saying user with, so let me make this a template literal. So user with, then the socket ID, which is the socket.id, has connected successfully. So what this means, or what this basically tells us, is when we notice a connection from any client or from any other area into this server, we want to let the server know that that particular user with a particular socket ID has connected. And the only way we can get the ID of the socket is from this socket object property, because when you console.log socket, you will find several stuffs and several properties inside of socket. But for our own case, all we just want to do is we want to be able to get the ID has been connected successfully. Now we have this, and this way, when anybody connects to our socket application, we'll get this console because we've been able to, establish a complete connection. And in this way, you can now be able to use your socket.emit, you can now be able to use your socket.on to listen to any event and all of that. But like I said, the main goal for this particular video is just to show you how to set up a socket connection in your Node.js application. And it's this very simple. This is how you set up a socket connection. And if you want to listen to an event from the client, you can just use the socket.on. And if you say client info data, then you can be able to console.log whatever data was sent by the client. So you can just say something like data. Now, what this means is from the client side or from whoever is connected, the person has emitted an event called client info, and you are listening to that event here as long as the person is connected. Now, if you decide to maybe emit an event by doing socket.emit server message, and you want to emit something like, let's say, hello world. Now, what this means is you are the one sending an information which is called hello world, and the only way all connected clients can get this information is by subscribing to this event. So you can see the beautiful thing about socket connection. You can listen to an event as a server, and you can also emit an event to several connected clients. Likewise, on the client side, you can also listen to an event coming from the server, and you can also emit an event to the server. Now, in our next video, I'm going to be showing you rather how to connect a front-end application like a React application or a Vue application or whatever kind of application it is to this socket connection. That's the next video we're going to be having here, and that would basically give you a better understanding of how to do a complete connection between the server and the client. Having explained all of that, this is basically a very simple approach of how you can set up WebSockets connection on your server, and I'm pretty much sure that from all of this explanation, you now have a better understanding on how to set up a socket connection and how to listen to events and emit events from the client to the server and also from the server to the client. Keep watch for your notifications. You can subscribe to the channel, turn on your post notifications so that when the next video is released, you will be able to get notified and be able to conjoin those videos together and get a better understanding. So the next video, like I said, is going to be talking about how to connect a front-end application like a React application to this server which we've created, or to this socket connection here which we've created. Now, this comes to the end of this video. I'm very much sure that you've been able to pick one or two things. If you understand anything or if you've been able to pick anything, I want to see that in the comment section below. If you feel there's anything that was omitted in this video, feel free to add it to the comment section. And if there is nothing else, just give us a thumbs up, subscribe to the channel, share with others who are also, having maybe similar issues or who are also experiencing the same issue with having WebSocket connection implemented. And trust me, this is the best way to go about it. So I'm going to see you in the next video.